too many students are learning in the burn zone. How many times haven't you heard people say, like, I really tried math, I never got it.
5 years from now, probably 80% of the jobs we will require some level of STEM, science, technology, or mathematics.
We need to change the teacher's role in the classroom if we are actually going to make a difference.
It seems that the AI gave them something most students they probably never got, which is that immediate feedback with no pressure and especially no judgment.
I flunked math and economics in high school. I flunked.
Welcome to the Tech Foresight podcast, where we are exploring how emerging technologies are reshaping the industries we are driving, the communities that we're part of, and also the futures that we are bold enough to imagine. I am Diana Daniels. I'm a Mexican entrepreneur working in the intersection of telecom, blockchain, and digital inclusion. And for me, the real promise of technology is not just about how do you scale, but actually it's about access. And I believe that access begins with education. So what if I told you that your child next math tutor might be not human? Whether you are a parent thinking about your child's future, or a leader focused on tomorrow's talent, or maybe an investor following the next wave of innovation, this episode is for you. Because we are entering a moment where AI-powered platforms are starting to understand how our children learn, and in many times much and better than actually some of us did. It is proven that mathematics is the foundation for opportunities, and it opens so many doors in life. But when kids are falling behind and they do early, and maybe no one notices, they're not often left trying to catch up for years. And I have to be honest, I was one of those kids. I struggled with math. I didn't have probably the right teachers. It wasn't fun for me. Maybe I could say it was a little bit even scary. And that's why I believe this conversation matters so much. Because today, technology is helping us reimagine how we teach, how we learn. And to explore this and to go really deep on this, I'm joined by someone that I admire very much and who is at the forefront for this. She is Gwen Fængsrud, and she is the founder and CEO of the House of Math. She's written 27 books on mathematics, built one of the European most successful EdTech platforms, and is working to make math not only accessible, but engaging and even fun for learners everywhere. Gwen, thank you for being with us. Welcome to the Tech Foresight podcast.
Thank you so much, Diana. I'm really looking forward to being here. I mean, I've been really looking forward to having our conversation. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I was reading the other day when we were preparing for our podcast that 5 years from now, probably 80% of the jobs we will require some level of STEM, science, technology, or mathematics. And what I also read is that in the latest PISA results, it's about like 1 in every 4 15-year-olds, they still perform below the baseline of mathematics. And the truth is that in many classrooms, that teaching model hasn't changed. And what I would like to start with you, Gwen, is what shifts? I mean, you're building this platform that has reached over 2 million users. And that gives you, a front seat in what is happening. And I would love to understand from you, what are those shifts that you are already seeing in how the students that are learning today? What is maybe fading away? What is emerging as a new normal? Tell us your take on this.
Well, the thing is, though, when you and I went to school, those who needed math were like going to be math teachers, engineers, and that was kind of it. Even if you were doing economics, it was kind of okay to be good at math, but it wasn't really that important. That has completely changed. I mean, those who weren't good at math, they did marketing. These days, marketing, it's all about data, being data-driven. Can you analyze it? And so many people with that math background go there. So there has been a gigantic shift in what is needed in different work, different positions. And then you go to school and you say, okay, how has it changed here? And we're still in a situation where the teacher primarily stands by the blackboard and uses their knowledge. 1, because it's needed, but 2, because we as teachers also love to be at the blackboard, talking all about our subjects. It's really hard. And why is that? You know, most classrooms have somewhere between 20 to 40 students, depending on what country you're in.
Mm-hmm.
There is one statistics that is really scary, and it says that the average distance between the strongest and the weakest student in a class is 5 years.
Wow.
In mathematics. And then you go, so how should I, as a teacher, talking to this crowd, figure out what level to put my math tutoring on when I'm going to reach this huge gap? Of course, that is impossible. It cannot happen. So what do you then do? Well, you end up in the situation we are today. You have kind of little tiny few who are really good at it. A lot of people who struggle, and some in the middle who struggle a little. So what can we do? Well, I believe that we need to change the teacher's role in the classroom if we are actually going to make a difference. Well, we need the teacher to be a guide of learning. I call it a learning leader. And
I like that.
the teacher should step down from the blackboard and be amongst the students in the classroom. And not to go and talk to each and every one doing a mini tutoring sessions with knowledge everywhere, but to help problem solve, help think. But then the question is, okay, but how are they going to learn anything new if they're not going to teach? I believe they should learn through video, through books, at the level they're actually at.
That's
And
cool.
the teacher should be helping at the level they're actually at. And then, so what do you do then with the curriculum and the exams? Well, first thing is, maybe we should look into that. That's not going to happen anytime soon. It's not like going to be a revolution next year. They're going to like throw all exams out the window and hope that's going to work. So that's not going to happen. But what you are going to see is if you work primarily with your curriculum and then you say, okay, this is just too hard for me. Like, I can't do that. And instead of sitting there listening to this teacher going on and you go like, yeah, no idea what you're talking about right now, right? Then that student should instead be mapped out and sit and work to fill their gaps so that their for homework can build on just another little step. Because also that's another thing with homework. If you're giving homework with stuff, there's just no reason, no way that you can know, then how to do that. You know, most kids don't lie in bed at night thinking, how can I just go to school tomorrow and be really sucky at math? Like people think that way. But there are millions, billions of kids, of parents who lie in bed at night going, you know, how can we make this math work? How can I teach my kid math? How can I make them understand? How can we get that grade? Billions of people have had that moment, and it happens time and time again. It's not a one-time thing, right?
Yeah.
So for me, then, it's all about if we're going to change this, if we're going to solve this problem, we need to teach math at the level the kids actually are.
Right? I love this because I, for instance, I just finished a master's in economics, and I got to say that I did it in economics because I wasn't that great in that, so I wanted to push a little bit for myself.
Yeah.
But one of the things that it helped me a lot is that I had lots of these classes were online and they were recorded. And in many of the cases of the things that I didn't probably get it completely, I went back, replay, pause, kind of like make a note, continue, because sometimes even professors, they are like in their own word, they speak fast. So I was able kind of like go at my own pace. So I see that this personalization of education is so important. What is your take on this?
So I've made this learning model. It's called Base, Build, Burn. And I use this teaching all the time. I use it when we built the platform, as we're building the platform. But I also use it with my teams at work. And this is how it goes. So the base learning zone, it's all the stuff you need. It's, you know, when we're sitting here, we're talking about window. We don't have to go like, oh, one moment, Dan, I just have to look that up. That's happening. So every time you're kind of working with the stuff you know and you can work on your own, that is the base zone. That means that you could also go really deep because you can take knowledge you already have, put it together in a new way, which is going to give you insights. So
Okay.
that's the base zone. Then you have the build zone. This is where you learn new stuff.
Yeah.
Like new stuff coming on. So you need some external sources. It's a book, it's a teacher, it's a friend, it's a mentor, a leader, a video, a radio, a podcast, whatever. But it needs to come from some external source, and you need help to get that in. It's not going to come through divine intervention, right?
Right. So it's base zone, and then what is that other zone?
Build zone.
The build zone.
So here's build new knowledge. You put more building blocks in your house.
Got it.
But then on top, you have the burn zone. This is not good, because the burn zone is probably what you felt sometimes when you were taking your economics education, where you just sit there and go like, what? Like, yeah. This is where what you're trying to learn, it's too difficult. So how much time you spend trying to do that, you will fail. Like, it's not going to happen. The only way you can learn that stuff, it's by taking a step back, go into the build zone, fill your gaps, and get enough foundation to learn that. So the problem here isn't working, trying to learn new stuff. It's trying to learn stuff that is just too far away from where you are today.
Yeah.
And this is what happens in math education all the time, all across the world, in every classroom, every day. Too many students are learning in the burn zone. How many times haven't you heard people say, like, I really tried math, I never got it. Like, I worked on it, I never got it. Like, follow class. What it wasn't for me. I don't have a math head. I didn't, break the code or see how it all works. But I go like, no. It's just, we are so incredibly into the curriculum that you have to do the curriculum. But when the curriculum puts you in the burn zone, you will fail. So we need to have a system where when you go like, no, I don't get it. Then you have someone to map you to say, of course you don't get it because you don't know what's in front. Let me teach you what in front. This is going to be fine. I've done this for 10 years.
And I guess that is probably the reason that now all these GPT models that are helping us to study are working well. I actually saw that Harvard ran a study where they tested this. They gave college students in physics class access to a custom AI chatbot. And those students, they went back to the chatbot and actually they learned twice as much as their peers in traditional active learning classroom. The same course, the same content, but it seems that the AI gave them something most students they probably never got, which is that immediate feedback with no pressure and especially no judgment that you usually get from the peer classroom. So, well, I believe that by now, these neural networks, they may understand how are we learning, but they might not understand why do we learn.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can replicate the patterns, but can an AI chatbot inspire the curiosity? That great teacher that you used to have that might inspire you. So maybe the question that I have here for you, Gwen, is what will be so uniquely human? And let's going to go 5 years from now, because technology is advancing so fast. Let's say 2030. And what will be still that unique human thing that it's especially in education, that AI gets smarter, but won't replace how children are learning and growing? What is your idea on this aspect?
So there's two perspectives here. One is that the LLM models we have today, they're kind of reaching their top in terms of something new has to happen for it to further develop. And then, we have an AI oracle at houseofmath.com. That's really good. That teaches you. But it's not like an inspiring, mentor that lifts you up. And it's not your Gandhi, right? But it does answer every question you have. And maybe a lot of those questions you're afraid to ask in class. And then there's a different perspective here. How good does it have to be to play a good enough role? I mean, one thing is that you aspire to build this perfect AI tutor that always caters to your learning style and always understands what you your wrong thoughts are. Because in didactics, the learning on how to learn a certain subject, it's all about, if you say A, what do you actually mean? How do I respond as a teacher? And what do I deliver as a solution? Let me give you an example. If you often, as a math teacher, hear people say, like, I don't understand, equations. Like, I really don't get it. And then I know, as a math teacher, that's probably not true, because linear equations are super simple. They're basically rules. So I know there's something more going on. As a math teacher, I also know, what do you need to know of base competencies and a foundation in order to master equations? Well, you need to know the times tables, and you need to know algebra. You need to know how to open brackets. You need to know how to multiply, numbers with letters. You need to know the 5 different rules of fractions, actually, just not one, so a whole fraction in itself. You also need to know all the sign rules, like plus and plus. If I add them, multiply those, what happens then, right? And these are some of the basics you need to know. So the first place I would go is, let me check, the times tables. Oh yeah, okay, you're good at that. Let me check your fractions. Yeah, you're not so good at that. Well, that's your problem, darling, not equations. So the thing is, the problem when it comes to learning math is that you as a student don't know what the actual problem is. This is why you as a student ask questions and you get an answer. You go like, no, that can't be the right answer. I'm talking about, equations here. Why are you answering with fractions?
Interesting.
So there are some really blind spots from the student's point of view and from a parent's point of view that we as teachers need to know and understand. This is why it's hard to learn math on your own if your gaps are too big, because you think you struggle with one thing, but you don't. You struggle with something completely over here somewhere. And
I guess this is very important, because even as a parent, whoever is a parent that is watching us today, if they came from this old system, like how I studied,
like we did,
right? It's like, how do you know? How much do you know if you don't know? And the worst thing is, how can you help your kids if you cannot necessarily understand this? You haven't lived this base layer, as you called it, and how can you help your kids if actually you don't know? What advice would you give these parents that are watching us today to help build the foundation correctly for their kids to go to the build layer?
Yes. So that is a great question. And one thing is, there is a really interesting article in Pedagogy from 1984 written by Benjamin Bloom. And it still stands today as it ever did before. And it talks about mastery learning, and it's called the 2 sigma problem. And basically what it says is that if you take an average student in a class and give that student mastery learning, on average, that student will become top 2% of the class. And that is kind of scary, because that means that we can take almost any student and make them a top student if we apply the right kind of teaching, which is, you said, giving that instant feedback. So what we've done at House of Math and at our platform at houseofmath.com is we've built a mastery learning track. So what we do is that you choose an age, like a curriculum that you're in, like you're in 10th grade. So you go into 10th grade. And then you choose a topic, let's say algebra. And the first thing you do is to take a mapping quiz. But that mapping quiz is not all kinds of math exercises. Because, if you take a kid on their spare time who don't really like math that much and ask them to do math, they're not going to do it really to try to map themselves. And then I would have to give too many hard questions, and then you're going to get discouraged. That's not good. So I give you self-assessing qualitative questions, like, do you know fractions? And then you go on 1 through 5. Do you know, do you know how to add numbers, 2-digit numbers? We ask you these types of questions. So in about 2 minutes, I know more or less where you are, so I can give you what you need. And I know these are your holes that you really need to fix before you go on to your curriculum.
I'm gonna enter right now after our podcast. I'm gonna enter there and actually gonna do my own self-assessment to see in what grade should I be in. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, so the thing is, if you do, there's this really good self-assessment that takes 5.5 hours. But what kid is going to do a test for 5.5 hours if they are not, forced to do so?
Right.
So the thing then is, okay, how can we do this in a way that the dopamine-driven youth of TikTok is going to do it also? And that's why we've built this really unique system. So for the parents, a way is to go on and then say, okay, how can I do this? What are the actual holes that my kids have? And then try to fix those holes before moving on to curriculum. And then, of course, we give you all the videos and everything. Whether it's up and running for Spain, it's not, unfortunately, but it will be ready in the US from July 1st.
Okay.
Yes, in the US, it's for the California curriculum, the Common Core, from July 1st. So that's really cool. And now we've run the pilot in Norway and it's working like a charm. So that's really fun. But that's how you can do it. Because, I mean, a lot of parents just go, I don't know math. What am I supposed to do? You can also
how can I help my kid? Like they don't know really good in it, like how they can even supervise them. So what I would love us to do is probably exercise our foresight, go a little bit further in time. Let's think that we are, let's talk 2050. And because if we're staying like in this trajectory, I believe that with platforms like yours, we're going to learn faster. Feedback will get smarter. Skills hopefully will become more personalized, and with that, we're not only going to change how kids study, but actually how they can probably even succeed, or we can even reshape how talent might look like. But what I'm struggling with is who is going to have access to this type of learning systems, What about if it's only certain families or certain regions or certain income brackets that it will get this full benefit of this AI-powered education? I would love to take your take on this, because as we move forward in the future, how do we make sure it's not only just the high tech that have access to this, but also that we do a truly inclusive education, and how do we avoid building a new kind of digital divide?
So that's a huge question, but just let me take some of the perspectives here. Okay. One thing is, if you're in Europe, there would be one thing in terms of AI regulation, and then you have the rest of the world, which is going to be different. Since that's so strong AI regulation in Norway, especially on gathering data on learning and kind of how the brain works on kids, that's going to be really hard. If you're in the US or Asia, this is very different in terms of what you're allowed to log and tag. So that's going to make it harder for Europeans than for other people. So unless EU changes or some of the other changes, this is going to be a problem, and Europe is going to fall further behind. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at if this is something that remains in or not going to be in school and remains in the private market, then this is going to be for kids of highly educated parents, parents who care about education, parents who have time and energy to follow up their children, and it's going to create a bigger and bigger and bigger divide. So that is one major thing. So then it comes down. So House of Math have always said that we are going to price this so that every family more or less have access to it. This is going to be even cheaper than type of Netflix. It's important that give it's the broad spectrum of kids that are going to have access to this. This is super important as one of the values of House of Math. Math to the people. That's kind of what we say. So
I love this.
And then there's another thing which is kind of worries me more.
Okay.
Stronger technology gets, there is no excuse anymore. I don't have access. And you can get it at the perfect base and build level in any subject. Then it comes down to one thing. Well, actually, it comes down to two things.
Okay.
It's your ability to learn.
It's so important, this.
And next, it comes down to your willingness to learn. And then we are all about who you are and who I am. This can go in a very dirty direction very fast, because now you truly can measure people who they are in terms of biology, training, and skills, but also in terms of character. Do you have a good work ethics? Do you have a good work morals? Do you have what it takes? Do you have stamina? Do you have grit? I mean, you can paint a really dark picture here. What I think is kind of more interesting than moving beyond that again is, let's talk about the ability to learn. Because as of today, I can't chip you and just say, here, I'll just download my knowledge. I load it up to you, and now you know math. Now you have in math, right? We have that ability as of now. That will come at some point in 2050. I don't know. I think at one point we're just going to download whatever we need. I think that, I mean, I have no idea how crazy and wild this is going to be, because I only have human imagination, and reality is so much more crazy than human imagination. But until
what I'm listening to you saying is that we're probably going to be like in the Matrix, where you say, okay, now speak Kung Fu, and then, I'll do my Kung Fu thingy.
I don't know.
Kung Fu would be, I don't know, LLM or something.
Yeah, so all I'm saying is, I don't know, but I have zero boundaries. Look at where we are today. 100 years ago, there was horse and carriage. We didn't really have hot showers. We were looking at, are we going to get electricity? Look at what happened in 100 years. Like, there's no way I can imagine what's going to be in another, like, that's past me. But until we do, it's all about the ability to learn. And that is, how does your brain learn? And what's your capacity to learn? And no matter how smart learning methods we developed, or how great, my base build burn model is, it comes down to you at the end of the day to do the learning job. Like, I can't bypass the fact that you need to do the job, to take it from a video, a paper, or a book and into your brain. I can't do it, right?
Yeah. And I guess this is also super interesting because, I was talking about this on my TED Talk, where I was asking, like, what about if AI has better ideas than you? And more than that, it's like, what about if they deliver them faster with, hopefully on this distance, with less ego, and AI will have less ego for sure. AI even have better grammar, than you, for sure. So the question here, Gwen, is, it might force us to ask us, like, what will make us valuable beyond intelligence? What skills that won't get outdated, no matter how smart the tools that we will have in our grasp will become? Because people are saying that AI will be better coders than us, that we may not need to learn how to code. What about if AI gets better in teaching us calculation, or they will get better, obviously, in predicting what we need to do? So then what is left us to master? Thinking about what can I really, of course, learning how to learn must be one of them. But what is going to be worth teaching, not just to us, but also to the future leaders?
Yeah, so if we start chip trimming our brains, we don't even need to learn how to learn anymore. So you just download whatever program you need for whatever you're doing. And then it's saying, but do it even need you to do anything? Like then we
It's
will,
going to be scary.
that's kind of just making us to a source of moving stuff around. Like, but what I think is really interesting about this kind of perspective and what do we need to do? You have the thing about intuition. Can we make these LLMs or whatever generative AI intuitive? And what kind of creative will they be? The thing is, we don't know. What are the boundaries? We know now what the boundaries of the LLM is per now, and we need something more. But what is the boundaries of the next generation and the next generation? So what I'm kind of looking into, what I struggle with now with, if it's ChatGPT or Gemini is, yes, you write so perfectly, but it's without character or personality. And even when I try to add personality or a flair, it comes out so perfectly. And then I know, but no, I want, the Gwen in there. I want that when you read a text, you hear my enthusiasm, you hear my idioms, my words, my things. So you hear it's me who's written to you. And you will so easily see if I haven't written something because it's so perfect. And I'm not. And it's just so perfect. Not very enthusiastic or in the choice of words. It just feels like any other document. So I kind of come as of now to see that it's really easy to see if something is written with ChatGPT or if it's written. It's super easy. It feels to me now. If I did a blind test, I would probably fail. But anyway, I feel it's really easy to say, oh yeah, you didn't write that yourself. Because humans don't write that way. And then that's the question is that something we would want? Now here is me arguing against myself. Because, back in the days, the horse and the man, this unbreakable bond, the transportation, the love, the understanding, right?
Yeah.
When the car came, one of the biggest oppositions, so they're like, no, it's never going to be anything, is that a man can never have a relationship with a steel horse, like they called the car, the steel horse, as they do with their horse. We now a man can have a very, very unique and close relationship with his steel horse.
Yes, totally. There's people, they love their cars, for sure.
And it's a passion, it's a dream. And let's be honest, I don't see that many men or women riding around in the streets anymore. That steel horse is everywhere. And I think that we're in this situation that we cannot imagine. Because it's just, how can you love a steel horse? Well, we can.
Listen, I agree with you on this, but then I got to tell you, it's funny because in that TED Talk that I did in Madrid last year, for a moment, I call it, imagine that the power is off and then all the lights went down.
Yeah.
And we had this situation, not that far away, here in Spain and in Portugal and south of France. There was a power cut. There was no light, there was no power, no electricity, no nothing. And the cell phones were not working, internet was not working. So God forbids something like this happened. And then we kind of like gave up the job for us to learn or to do math or to whatever to the machine that eventually might, so I have to say that definitely we want to keep things in for us, right? We want to make sure that we are still somehow smarter or as smart as the machine. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's just one of the things that we discuss here in the office, because we are very AI first in the way that we produce and develop, because it just makes us way more efficient. And then the girls once said, but people don't want to listen to music made by AI. People don't want to have like animation made by AI. And I said, are you sure?
I will. Yeah.
Can you even?
They are.
Like, yeah, we are. Can we hear the difference? I don't think we can. But then there will be an additional market, human-made music, human-made art.
Just like probably like the handbags, like Hermes or Chanel, you have these human-made beautiful handbags that are super expensive. And right?
Exactly. So it's just going to create a new style or a new brand or new market. But for the mass markets, we go to Zara all the time and buy so much clothes that is not made by humans. And now you have bespoke tailoring, which of course is super expensive, but it's still a market, way less than it once was. So I think that the most important thing we can do, whether it's, in education, it's about learning, it's all about being non-scared of the development.
Okay.
Yes, we need to regulate it. I don't think we should let AI loose in, but I also see now that like ChatGPT have trained it too much to be politically correct. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's not my thing. It's just, I was like, oh no. Or it's so stereotypical that I was like, oh my God, this is so old fashioned. So I think that's the important thing we can do, because this is going to develop so fast beyond anything anyone of us can imagine. It's just get on the wave. You need to be on the wave. You need to surf and ride with it. Because if you're not, you're going to fall off, and then no one's going to employ you, and there's not going to be use for you. And that's kind of one of the most scary parts, is that everyone's like, yeah, let's, take a back seat here. Yeah, you don't want to do that, because the world is just going to move along without you, without care. And all the companies are just going to, this is one thing I talk to students about. Do you know why companies employ people or anyone? Do you know why we need employers? No, employees? And they like, no, I never really thought about why they need employees. Because the company has a problem. That problem needs to be solved. So then we look after people who can solve that problem. That's why there is a position. And when we're doing that, we want the very best person or robot or whatever, automation, to solve
the best solver.
Yeah, that's what we do. We have a problem, we need to solve it. There is a position, and someone needs or something needs to fill it. And then we look for the best solution. And if you can't, follow, if you can't deliver, well, you're not going to get that job. You're not going to be employed. And that is basically what jobs are. It's a problem a company needs to be solved by something or someone, by the best person can do that.
So I want to bring you to the what I call is one of my favorite parts of this podcast, because I truly believe that the best leaders are those ones that are reacting beyond these headlines, and I know you are one of these leaders that are always reading the signals and you're writing your own future. So here's how it works. I'm going to ask you 4 trends. These are in the present, something that is happening right now that are shaping education, learning, or society. And then we're going to zoom out, and I'm going to give you maybe the chance to give us 4 dreams. Go crazy, wild, those possibilities that where you would like to see where education is going to be 25 years from now. And maybe not necessarily what you believe is going to happen, but maybe more about like, what would you wish it would happen?
Yeah.
Yeah? You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Okay, let's see. 4 trends. Maybe let's going to start with the trend in education.
Yes. One of them is more digital learning. That is a super trend. Came with COVID, still going, and it's still at its infant phase. So digital learning. Another trend, screens are dangerous. Like a lot of parents now are like negative screen time. They're too much screen, which is in the completely opposite direction. So here is a big divide, but both are trending. Those who just go and do anything digitally in terms of learning, just harnessing whatever race, boat, engine, jet, propulsion engine they can have. And those who go like, no, too much screen time. No, we should go back to books, pen and paper. 2 trends, different direction. Very interesting.
Okay.
So those, I think, is two big trends in education.
Okay.
But
What about technology?
yeah, I would say another trend I love is comfortable footwear. I love comfortable, like those high heels. Seriously, they're killing me. So getting to do sneakers, I love that trend. That was one from fashion and work life, that I can use sneakers at
I
work.
love that trend.
That's the CEO. I love it. And a hoodie, yeah, good trend. In technology, it's how efficient we as humans can be with the AI large language models. Wow, I just love how much I get to do having this super awesome assistant. But it's
Love that.
fast for me because I know my stuff. And the other part is those who tries to use it, who don't really have basic ground expertise in something, they can be very surprised of the shit that thing delivers.
Yeah, totally. Totally. You can be very effective when you didn't know how to.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, let's go for the dreams.
It's so wrong. So yeah, that's
Yeah, totally. So let's go for the dreams. The things that you wish how the world will be, let's say 2050. Maybe your dream for
I
how
want
children will learn.
no, I just want to start with I want peace. Let's stop.
Okay.
That's the
Correct.
dream I have. Let's stop bombing each other.
Yeah, I love that dream.
So that's one. The other one is I want us to change the way schools are teaching. That's a
Important.
And that's a dream I want to be a part of. And that's a dream that I'm building a solution to. And I would want all schools to take the House of Math method into math class to make the math teacher that learning leader instead of that, actor or actress sharing all their knowledge. They
I
call
love this.
stage on the stage. To me, it's more like it's all about getting also the accolades. Like we as teachers need to become learning leaders and not our what we can say curriculum carriers.
You know what? I want to build on this because I believe that obviously education is a basic right, but I would say that even math education should be a basic right.
I mean, it's like we started off saying this was for engineers and math teachers, and now is if you don't know your math, you are in the minus straight off the bat into the course or into high school or into your uni. If you don't know your math, you are in the minus. And
what will be your dream then when for teachers and mentors?
to put our egos aside. I think one of the biggest challenges for us as teachers, that feeling to stand in front of a class and getting cheer, like the way that they getting that response, it's a powerful response, and it's really hard to give up. So for us to get this way of teaching into the schools, going to take a lot from us, the teachers, because we have to give up some of the things we love the most about our jobs. And then we have to find that same joy in being a leader on a micro level instead of in the macro level in the classroom. You have to be with each and every. So I think that is also one of the dreams that could happen faster, and that many of us will realize the joy of seeing how many actual students we take forward. Because what I can say, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. The amount of people I've taken to top grade in math, like, has reached thousands just on my personal journey. And all I say is, if you follow my method, you will get a top grade, because it happens every time. Like every time. If you do what I say, it's going to work out. If you don't, I take zero responsibility because you're not following the recipe. You need to. It's that simple. And then, of course, I have the big dream. I want to move the needle when it comes to a global scale of people learning math. I want that. That is one of my dreams. Knowledge empowers people, and people strengthen society.
I'm with you, sister. I'm right there with you. So today we've been into the future, and before we start wrapping up, what I would like to do is go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the future also is shaped not by just this bold vision like the one that you have, but also by the moments of doubt, the moments of hope. and those moments of choice. So you're already a very successful entrepreneur, Gwen. And if we can go back when you were, I don't know, 18 or maybe younger, um, what would you tell to that 18-year-old Gwen? What would you tell her to
Well,
do
I'll
differently?
I'll I'll give you this. I flunked math and economics in high school.
Mm,
I flunked. I
wow.
even did second year of high school twice. So I even
Okay.
back a year. I chose to do that myself. I basically, when I was 16, I I dumped myself. I
Mm.
was told that, God, you're so hopeless in school. You should probably do second year again. And then I just got up, got out of the classroom, went to the principal's office and said, I need to do second year over again. And I did.
Mm.
And what I want everyone to know is that this brain flunked math. This brain is now this math entrepreneur, written books and have a degree in math and mathematical finance. I wrote my master's thesis on that. It's the same brain, no brain transplant. It's all about doing the job. It's all about going back, filling the gaps, building one step at a time. And the only thing you can't be is impatient in the process. You need to trust the process. That's what took me from a math loser to a math magician. Haha.
I love it. Okay. And what advice would you give to either parents or people that are in that more leadership position towards the youngest ones, that either they're trying to help their kids to just not survive school, but also enjoy the learning and to thrive?
As a teacher, as a leader, learn to understand and read when your kids or your teammates or your colleagues are in the burn zone. Because if you keep pushing someone who's in the burn zone, they will fail every time. But if you can recognize that someone now is beyond where they're at, and you as a leader or a parent have the wisdom to go, hey, it looks like you're a little bit beyond where we're supposed to be. Let's go a little bit back. What do we have to fill the gaps? Where do we have missing knowledge? If you as a leader
Levels.
or a parent just learn to recognize the burn zone, you're going to be a much greater leader and you're going to be a really good parent. But most of all, homework time will
Mm.
not be a war zone anymore. Because instead of you going, how can't you understand that? And the kid going, well, because you're an awful teacher. And there you go from there. That's going to get away. So learn to recognize the burn zone.
I love this. I love this. Okay. So let me try to see if I get everything right. I have these three takeaways from our conversation today. My first takeaway is math is power and it's time we treat it like a basic right. That's my first takeaway. My second takeaway is technology will be as inclusive as these systems that you leaders like yourself are doing them behind it. So we can personalize learning, skill access, but only inclusion will be baked to design if we actually put the work into it. And my third takeaway is foresight or thinking about the future is about having the wisdom to go back to the base zone. So, because if you go to the base zone, you can go to the build zone. So don't fall into the trap of the burn zone.
Yeah.
Those are my three takeaways. Did I get it right, Gwen? Anything I missed?
Well, I'm kind of impressed. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So before we leave, I would love for you to give maybe a message for the educators, the school owners, or administrator of public schools, for those tech-head entrepreneurs that are watching us today, wondering how to stay relevant as AI is transforming their world. What is your advice and message to them?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be obsolete. Don't be afraid that you have to do your job completely different. Don't be afraid to teach the kids in a different manner. Don't be afraid to bring learning videos into the classroom. Don't be afraid. Try to figure out how to roll with the punches or how to surf the wave because it sounds so much nicer. So it's all about don't be afraid, embrace it and see how you can use it to your strength because it's going to empower everyone around you.
Loved it. Loved it. Well, thank you, Gwen. Thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you today. I appreciate for you to come into the Tech Foresight podcast.
Thank you so much.
As to everyone listening, if this episode sparks something, you please share it, send it to a parent, a teacher, or anyone who is dreaming about what education and learning on teaching math can become. So tell us, what is your dream for the future of learning? I am Diana Daniels. Stay bold, stay curious, and multiple, stay human. This is the Tech Foresight podcast, and see you next chapter. See you soon.